Hey, what's up? Liron here, and in this video we're gonna do something a little fun, something we haven't done in a while, and that is, sorry about that, spontaneous sketching. So I'm just gonna show you a reference, show you a photo, and then show you how I interpret it into a pen sketch. We're gonna keep it lighthearted and fun. There will be some perspective getting started. But still, I think you'll enjoy the process, even if you don't like the technical stuff as much. Now, one important note, I had tons of camera issues, and I actually, in the middle of filming, went outside, bought a new camera, and brought it and started working with that. So you may see the quality change. I may have problems editing this video. I don't know. But anyways, let's get to the process. So I'm going to try and do as much as I can real time, and then for the boring parts, we're gonna skip through in time-lapse. Now this is very interesting. We have multiple elements here, a lot of points of interest in my opinion. Obviously we have the structure, and that's gonna give us an interesting perspective, so that'll be required. We'll have this tree here. I'm gonna take my time and work a little slower. You can watch me at double speed or 1.5 speed if it bores you, but I will try and be a little more focused for this one. So I'm gonna get started with the corners, and these are gonna help me. I'm working from a piece of paper that I created a frame, and it's the same proportions as the reference photo. Now, I'm not gonna change it. My goal here isn't really to practice my creativity. I just wanna show you how to render this kind of a thing in pen and ink, keep it interesting. So we have this line coming here from the corner, and even if you don't know perspective, you just look at it and you'll see that it has this angle. If you can get these angles accurately, you'll do really well. Now, it connects to another line that comes from this corner. Now, I'm not going to pull it out of the corner. I'm going to go a little above just to avoid that. I don't like connecting things with corners too much, okay? And we got the meeting point. Now, look at the set of lines that's parallel to this line, okay? What happens is we get a fanning. You know what, a better way to look at it is look at all of the more horizontal lines. They have this fanning going on. If you look at a rooftop that's most up top, it has this angle. Then if you move a little down, it's not the same. It goes a little like this, and then it goes a little like that, and then it goes all the way up to this angle, okay? What this represents is parallel lines. Look at this fanning motion that move and meet at a vanishing point at infinity. So what you'll get is if we extend this line, and it should probably be less diagonal. You see, I'm continuing it outside the frame, and then as I move towards this line, it's at a different angle, okay? Like so. I know you can barely see this, but this is just guidelines for me. And as we move towards the upper line, it's not going to be parallel, but a bit more of an angle, okay? That fanning is the main thing you want to pay attention to when you do works like this that have perspective in them. Now, let me just expand on this section a bit. You see this, these rooftops and the meeting of the wall and the ground. These are all parallel. Remember, if you would look at it dead on from straight ahead, you'll get these lines, okay? And because we're looking at it from the side, they move towards a vanishing point in infinity. So a more practical way to approach this would be just to get this fanning with lots of guidelines to let you know at what angle you're going to draw every line, okay? And once you get this grid going, it's much easier to plop objects into it, okay? I hope that makes sense. Now, on the other side, we also have some lines that fan out from a vanishing point. So let me show you. We get the corner of the structure here, and we have, notice, these lines that go like this, okay? And that's how you set up the perspective. You see? The more it moves down, the more it flattens. So we basically get two grids. We get one here, and then one here on the other side, okay? Two different grids. And I know you can barely see this. Let me go over some of the lines just to make sure that you can see the grids. I'm gonna go a little darker than I usually would, okay? Here we go. So now that we have this set up, we can just put things in there. So if I look at this rooftop, for example, I can tell that the side of the building, and it's a line that's going to go all the way down to the bottom, goes like this, okay? Now, something important, it's not perfectly vertical, it's actually at a bit of an angle because we have a third vanishing point up top. This is the 3 points perspective setup. Why? Because think about it this way. The top of the building is farther from us than, let's say, this bottom section. So what happens is it goes changes the angle the farther it gets, okay? And these lines also get closer to one another because they get smaller, okay? So this length is a little smaller than what we'll get down below, okay? So I don't want you to to get lost in the perspective too much, but this is the basic setup, and from this point on I can pretty much follow what I see. So this side of the rooftop goes over to this section, that goes over to this section, and we essentially get the main structure of the building, okay? And then this continues over the second rooftop, which is about the midway point of the painting, so somewhere around here, the vertical midpoint. And this, you see how it follows the grid? Same angle, okay? Same angle like this. And this also follows this side of the grid. So you try and find the angle that's between these two lines. So not like this, not like this, like something like this, okay? So here's the angle here. We'll continue this one all the way to the second rooftop, like this. Now you can exaggerate these changes. You can make it even more exaggerated, and that way it'll feel like we're even closer to the building, okay? That's another cool trick that you can use. So this is the bottom part of the rooftop. Now always have perspective in mind. This rooftop is a little closer to us, so it's going to be larger. So this width here is a little smaller than this, okay? Just have these things in mind. Always ask yourself what's closer, what's farther, and make sure that you create an impression that the objects that are closer are larger, wider, bigger, okay? This is what will happen most of the time. Obviously, it is a possibility that this side of the this rooftop is wider than this rooftop in reality, and that way they'll look equal. It is possible to create these illusions as well. But in any case, I hope that makes sense. Let's continue with the lay-in. So we'll work on the bottom now. I just want to make sure that it fits the rest of everything I just put. We actually have this wall here. It's a continuation of this corner. This corner. Now notice how I'm working my way from larger shapes to smaller shapes. That's always how I approach these things. You want to make sure that you don't commit to something that's so small and minute before you get the general thing in. It's really, really important. Now, even when I work on the different elements within the walls, look at how I approach this. So we've got several different arches here. It's beautiful architecture in Spain. So it starts, let's say, somewhere around here. We've got, the proportions are not 100% obviously, but let's say here. And notice how we're gonna have the same fanning action. So this goes like this. You see, this line's a little like that. This one isn't parallel, it's like this. Because again, the objects converge to a vanishing point, but it's just way up there, so we can barely see it. In fact, let me zoom in a bit. I just now realized that all of this section is really irrelevant, so I'm gonna zoom in a bit to show you the details better. Now, okay, we have several of these arches. Now, the edge of the arch is around here, so let's drop another line following the perspective, and now we can build the arches based on that. Okay, the top section is here, somewhere around here, and then we can drop them in. Now this isn't easy for me, it's still kind of hard, so I'm trying to eyeball the approximate placement. It's not gonna be fully accurate, but I'm fine with that. And here we have these kind of poles holding these in place. We have a bit of foliage, so right around here, okay? And we have some more foliage down there. Now the tree. Okay, the tree is a major part, and because it's more organic, I wanted to leave it for last. Now, the tree originally ends somewhere around here. I'm gonna use a bit more of the space I have up here. And this is where you really want to design the composition in an interesting way. So for me, I don't want to put it right on the corner here. It's a bit weird in my opinion. Now, I don't want to put it outside here. That's also strange. So what I can do is either drop that lumpy section under this or above it. I think I'll go with above. So let's say this lumpy large section is here. Out of that, all of the leaves come out. Okay? Something like this. And again, I'm still not going into the full details because that's gonna come later with the pen, and I believe I'll time-lapse the thing. There's no reason to show you everything. I can just narrate it later and explain what I'm doing. But here we go, we got the tree. I'd even go a little higher, actually, like this. Very symbolic still. The bottom section is good, we're good for that. Let's see, what else am I missing? Obviously there are the shadows, so let's get those in. This sharp turn here because of the rooftop, another shadow. Now windows. So these also follow obviously the perspective. So top line for the windows, bottom line for the windows, and then we'll divide this section up. Now what you actually see here isn't too much of the windows, you just see that diagonal shadow. So here we go, like that. We have this side of the building, like this, lines following the perspective, and I'm gonna place 1 or 2 or 3 windows, like so. There's actually a gap here, but I don't care about that. It doesn't make sense to keep it here. It's like an open wall. This side here has no wall on it. I could keep it just by darkening this section, leaving this light. We'll see, it doesn't even matter at this stage. And I think with that, we're pretty much ready for the pen. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna actually switch now to the pen. We'll get through some of these details in time-lapse, and then I'll talk a bit about the technique. One of the main things I actually want to say is it's a lot about warming up, you know, when you get started every day, when you get started with the pen and ink, you may feel a little unconfident, or, you know, your lines won't be really good or dynamic, and it's a lot of it has to do with just doing it a bit and getting into the groove, which is where I'm at right now, just trying to figure out how to get my lines to look the way I want. It's really natural that no matter how long you've been doing it, after just a break or, you know, after a night's sleep, things reset in a way. And that's fine. I actually used 2 types of pens here. I mean, not 2 types, but 2 sizes rather. I'm using the Faber-Castell Eco Pigment. One of them is the 04 and another is the 08. And I really love these. These are the pens I kind of got used to using in the last year or so. I have been using also the Sakura Micron Pigma. I've been using the Staedtler ones. I've been using quite a few types. These are the ones that I thoroughly enjoyed so far. Now I'm just rendering some of the tree branches. There isn't really anything too crazy with the technique here. All I'm doing is dropping in this main line so that I know what to follow, and then I put in some of the leaves. The thing you want to make sure is just don't go too robotic here. You want to have some variety in the lines and the line quality, and you see these different angles. Also, I am putting in indications for every leaf, as you can tell, but it's not going to be, and it's not, obviously it's not really every leaf, but that's as much as I'll go into details. What I'll actually do is later on just cover it with another layer and keep it very very simplified. This entire area I'll probably just fill in with some dark values, and that's it. I'm not going to portray each and every leaf perfectly. It's just, it will hurt the overall impression and will lead to an unbalanced look. Now, one tricky thing about this scene is the sky and the fact that it's a little darker than the walls of the building. So what I'm going to do, even before I continue here, is just set the tone, so to speak. I'll fill in the sky and probably the tree with some lines. It's going to be very repetitive, so we're going to jump into time-lapse. I'm going to do the whole thing. So as you see, a bit of a different approach than my usual. This is very tedious, and it does require a lot of patience. Watercolor is much faster. I did want to practice my linear composition, if you will. One more thing to pay attention to is now the tree is in, and I want it to stay fairly prominent, so automatically I know that I'm not going to put as much work into this area. I'm going to try and keep it rather simple. Now for the foliage in the foreground, once again, the trick to these inorganic shapes is to keep it as random as you can, so don't have like equal bumps here. Try and vary them, so I'll go up, then a little down, then I'm gonna stay a little down, then maybe I'll go even higher. You see, just keep it varied. I think this is the key to get these to look good, to look in a random pattern. So I'm going to try and fill in as much as I can using these vertical lines, like so. Okay, but for the foliage, there will be a bit of a difference. So here we go. I go like this. Now I need to obviously get it a little darker, so I'm going to go at a slight angle, something between 20 and 35 and 45 degree. And then what I'm going to do on top of that, and this is the secret to making it look a little more foliage, is to do the scribbly thing as well. Okay, and this is, again, I'm going for a rather simplified version of the scene. It's definitely not going to be, I'm not even aiming for a realistic impression. Initially I wasn't sure what I'm going to do, but now I am pretty sure. I'm aiming for something that's a little more scribbly, a little more fun in that kind of a way. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, just a loose interpretation, a very urban sketching-esque quality to it. So I'm going to finish this section up, and then we'll move on to the rest and finalize some things in time-lapse, and I think then I'll wrap it up. So one of the things you'll notice is, just as a quick side note, first off, believe it or not, this is a new camera. I got tired of the previous one, so I actually went ahead and bought one. I was planning to for a while anyway. So I don't know if you'll see a change in quality. I'm still leaving it at 1080p, not 4K yet, because I want to learn how to work with it. But back to the process. The main thing here is the direction of the cross-hatching has some importance to it, okay? And this is something to keep in mind. See, I want to convey the pattern of the shingles here, so I go with their direction. You see, I want to convey the direction of the wall, so I go with that. You also see me going kind of around, wrapping the tree in lines. You can imagine these as kind of rubber bands, and it's a bit sloppy, I will admit. I just go a bit like, this is the eye level approximately, and I go a little too fast on it, but my bad for that. But in any case, the direction has a meaning, and what I would encourage you to do is to play around with many different directions, seeing how the effect changes, how the feeling changes, what kind of an influence doing these changes has on the sketch, or you know, if it's something a little more detailed and a little more accurate than this, then definitely. Now what I'm going to do is apply darks to everywhere here. So anything that should be dark and black, I'm going to just darken, then we'll come back and wrap it up, kind of just give an overview, and I'll show it to you up close. So here we are done. I want you to have something interesting in mind. Now, when you look at the dark spots that I added, these will play a big role in dictating to the viewer what to look at, what to focus on. So what will happen often is, if I want the viewer to focus on a certain area, that's where I'll put in more dark. So I wanted to pull the attention actually here to the tower, or the top part. So I kept that pretty dark. Here I didn't go as dark as I could, and that sort of diverts the attention of the viewer there. Now, one more thing I want to add is, I do love that some of the pattern of the bricks does show through, and I'm going to do it in a very cartoony, simplified manner, but if you just throw a few lines here near the corner, and then on the other hand, that can, on the other end, sorry, on the other side of the wall, that can really enhance the sense of stability and structure of this building, or whatever it is. It's actually a palace in Spain, if I'm not mistaken. You see, I'm just putting these small details, and it improves the solidity of the walls. It just feels like they're more solid. Just adding this bit of texture can do wonders, really. So yeah, I really hope you found this one useful. Let me give you a good look, and sorry about all the technical issues. Next video is going to be hopefully 4K or better quality, and also without all of the pauses and everything. It makes the editing harder as well, so I really don't enjoy it. But I guess this is it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you watching the video, and now we can wrap it up face to face. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Once again, sorry about the technical difficulties. Hopefully from the next video the quality will improve. I kept this one at 80p, but maybe I'll start filming at 4K and actually show you more of the details and be able to zoom in a little better. I do need to experiment with it. Sorry if the next couple of videos are a little wonky as I play around with the new camera. I want to thank you so much for watching. Once again, I really appreciate it. If you want to learn how to draw or paint like me, be sure to check out the links in the description box below to my courses. You can also check out the books on Amazon. I really do appreciate you. Thank you so much, and I will see you again real soon.